Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 9-game NBA slate. Do keep in mind there are 10 NBA games today, and the last game of the night is not on this main slate on DraftKings for some reason. That's been happening a lot this season. I'm a little surprised, but hey, with that said, we do have an extensive injury report. Though I do like this slate, I think it actually has a decent amount of value. Though there's not a ton of super cheap value, but there's some decent value plays, and even in the more expensive options, we have some good plays here. Let's go and get in that injury report though. So for the Clippers, Zubac is out. For the Pistons, Stewart is out. For the Heat, Robinson is out. For the Wizards, Poole, Bagley, and Shamet are questionable. For the Hawks, Hunter is questionable. For the Pacers, Halliburton and Mathurian are questionable. For the Raptors, Barrett, Quickly, and Podol are questionable. For the Rockets, Sengun is questionable and Eason is out. For the Pelicans, Zion, Jones, and Nance are questionable. For the Spurs, Collins and Johnson are questionable. For the Hornets, Ball is doubtful, and Williams, Hayward, and Lowry are out. For the Thunder, Jalen Williams is out. He's the small forward. Jalen Williams, not the center. For the Warriors, Chris Paul, Sarek, Moody, and Payton are out. And for the Grizzlies, Tillman, Kennard, and Z. Williams are questionable. And Morant, Bain, and Smart are out. So we have a ton of injuries to look at today. But I do think we have some good plays on the slate, so let's go ahead and get into them. I do have three core plays for you. The first being Shea Alexander. Now, Shea Alexander has played extremely well throughout the season. He's got a high ceiling. He has had a couple of floor games in the last few games, but I think he's going to have a huge game here against Charlotte, who's been very weak against point guards. Well, they've been bad against everybody, honestly. But regardless of that, I think that he's going to have a monster game today, assuming that the game doesn't get out of hand too fast. I think Oklahoma City will be a team that's very favorable from a fantasy output today. I also like Fred VanVleet for Houston. Now, he doesn't have the best matchup here against Toronto, but it's a decent one. He's also been playing a ton of minutes lately, and his price has come down a little bit. And while his output in some of these games has been a little bit rougher because of the matchups and things, this is a great matchup for him to exploit and have a huge game. He's been up and down and a little bit streaky, but this matchup is really solid for him, and I think he's a great option on the slate. He was very borderline, I will point that out though. And then we're gonna look at Kuminga for Golden State Warriors. He has absolutely been a monster for fantasy lately. He's been over 40 fantasy points a bunch of times. His price hasn't really come up much despite these monster games, which is a little surprising, though it is somewhat scoring dependent and some rebounds. But he's just been playing very well, and while he's playing well like this, getting a monster amount of minutes, he's definitely worth a look here. He definitely carries that risk because, as you know, with him, he does have a very low floor, where he's had games in the, teens most of the season. So, but with his new role here, at least for now, he looks like a really solid option. I'm not sure much longer this will last, but with the way this season is going for him, he's playing really well right now. He's definitely a good option at this price point. Then I have some other plays to look at here. So we'll look at Sabonis for the Kings. He's been absolutely fantastic lately. He's had a couple off games that one against Dallas, but outside of that, he's been a monster. He's even doing it against tougher teams like Memphis and Miami. So I expect him to continue that and have a really solid output here, especially in the game that's going to be up tempo and have him a great opportunity to have a double double and maybe a triple double. He's just been playing very well. Wimby has also been playing very well. He's been in a streak of really solid games lately. His price is still fair, even though it has come up a little bit. He's been putting up really good games and having double doubles in a lot of them. He's also getting a ton of blocks, which is really boosting his fantasy output. I don't typically like to use players when they're boosted by their blocking ability or steals ability, but right now he's just playing fantastic basketball, and so he's definitely worth a look. He's shooting the ball well too, which helps a lot. Um, then we're going to look at Bam Adebayo. Now, he might be a sneaky player to actually move into a core play as the day goes on. His price point has been reduced a little bit from its height because he's had a few games in a row that he hasn't been as good, but this matchup is just very juicy. And if you look at the matchups he had here against Boston, New York, Phoenix, and Sacramento, those are tougher matchups from a defensive wise for a center. This is a great matchup, though, against Washington, though I do notice that he had his one bad game against Washington recently this year, but I still think he's got a lot of upside in this matchup, and he's definitely worth a look. Chet Holmgren is in play for Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City looks like a really solid team to stack today, and he's definitely a guy you can do. Even though he had two rough games against Minnesota and Detroit, he did bounce back against Denver and had a double-double. He's been getting double-doubles more and more, and he definitely has some potential for that here. He hadn't had a ton on the season, but he's had them in certain bunches, and right now he's playing well. He's also shooting the ball pretty well, and with a couple of injuries to Oklahoma City, he's going to have a little bit higher usage as well. So I do like his upside here on the slate. Jalen Green has also played very well throughout the season, though he's been streaky. But he's had 5 straight games over 38 fantasy points. He's a little bit underpriced based on that. He's also got a super high floor, or sorry, a super high ceiling, as he's been hitting it a lot, though his price has come up as a result. He's still worth a look here. Tyler Hero from Miami also in play today. He's been playing pretty good basketball since he's been back, and as his minutes have increased, so his fantasy production, his price is pretty fair here. If it was a little bit more expensive than this, I would definitely probably avoid. But right now, while he's under $7,000, he's definitely worth a look because he can definitely get in this range. He's been over 5x in 9 of the last 12 games he's played, which obviously he's been back for a little while. So I do think he's in a good spot here. Looking at Bradley Beal, he seems like he's in a really solid opportunity here against Atlanta. Atlanta's struggled against guards like him throughout the season. Now he doesn't play. He does play a lot of minutes, but there's a lot of mouths to feed there in Phoenix with it being at full strength. But he's definitely priced pretty good today for the matchup, and he's definitely worth a look here. Then we'll look at Draymond Green, who is probable today, but I expect him to play. And a few games back since his suspension, he's been pretty solid. Though he had a couple of floor games against Philly and Sacramento. Against Philly and Atlanta, excuse me. This matchup isn't perfect, but it's definitely a game where he has some capability of having a solid game. Though there is some, risk there with him, but he's definitely a good player for the price. Then we'll look at Trey Jones for San Antonio Spurs. Now, he's really improved recently as he's been playing very well. His price has come up some as a result, but I think he's in a really good spot, and he's playing a lot of minutes, and he is getting a lot of assists and things, which is helping his fantasy output, and so that gives him a lot of potential on the slate. If you want to pair him with Wemby today, that's definitely a way you could go about. Though it is a little bit of a risky matchup against the Pelicans, I do think it's a viable way to go today. Looking at Kevin Huerter for Sacramento. Now, if there's anybody that's more, less risky than him, as he has a super low floor, that doesn't exist. But in 6 of the last 8 games, he's been over 5x. You just have to avoid the fact of looking at the rest of the season when you decide to use him. With that said, he's been over 30 fantasy points in 3 of the last 4 as well, which really gives him a lot of potential here. He's playing a lot of minutes and playing pretty well, though he is scoring dependent, so that is a concern. So he's squarely a GPP play. I do have 3 sub $4,000 players as well to look at. One being Lou Dort for Oklahoma City. In fact, all of the 3 are going to come from Oklahoma City. The last few games, his minutes have been up. Now, he definitely has a super low floor, but he's had some streaky areas where his minutes have gone up and he's played well. With the injury to Jalen Williams, he definitely has some potential today as he's nice and cheap, though he does carry some risk. Aaron Wiggins for Oklahoma City also in play as his minutes have increased recently. And he's been at least around 15 fantasy points most games. He definitely has that potential for a big game, and he definitely has a low floor. But as long as his minutes are in the mid-20s, he's definitely a capable option, though he does carry some risk here. And then Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams for Oklahoma City. He's a center. He's really improving his minutes recently. Obviously, he's been kind of streaky with the minutes, but right now he's playing a few more minutes per game, and if that holds, then he's definitely somebody at a minimum price that could pay off today. Though I don't expect a huge game, I think he's definitely a capable player, though. With that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.